Hey everyone, it's BrowncoatNerd, and today I've got something a little bit different. This isn't really going to be a review on either of these pistols, but rather we're just going to have a real brief introduction to black powder revolvers or black powder firearms. The examples I have here are revolvers, so we'll just kind of stick to that. Now, there's a lot better and more in-depth videos that can introduce you to black powder handguns. My goal here is just kind of anyone that subscribes to this channel or happens to stumble across this video, maybe this will just kind of help pique your interest and introduce you to it so you can kind of look into it a little bit better on your own. Now, if you do want to watch some more videos on these, I will recommend Duelist 1954. He's got some really good videos. He's kind of the Misha of the black powder world. And he is on my subscribe list. You can go to my channel and see what channels I subscribe to, and he is on that list if you want to look him up. But like I said, he's got some really great and informative videos, and really once I kind of started looking into these, he was very informative in the information that I was getting and everything starting out. So real quick, black powder firearms, what we got here basically, how you're going to load these is you're going to pour in powder into the cylinder. You will, depending on who you listen to, some people say put in a greased in wad, some say you don't need to worry about it. Do your own research and decision on that. And then you just put a little lead ball in here, and this lever pushes it down into your cylinder. And then once again, depending on who you listen to, some people will say put what's called bore butter. It's just kind of like a wax coating over the front of that cylinder there. That way, in case you have a spark come out of one of these other cylinders, it won't get in there and ignite your next round. But there's kind of a whole debate in the black powder world as to whether you really need to go that far. So I will let you do your own research and make your own conclusions on that. I personally, honestly, don't even have an opinion on that yet because to be 100% truthful with you guys, I have not even fired a black powdered revolver or firearm of any kind. I just recently got into this. Both of these are still brand new. They have not been fired. But I just kind of wanted to bring this video to you and give you a real kind of quick, brief introduction. I say quick, but we know how I ramble on. So, starting off, what we have here, and this is probably going to be your most popular black powder gun you're going to see on the market. One, it's very well priced. That's the other thing that's really fun about these guns is, I've known they've been around, modern black powder guns, but I knew they weren't historically accurate, and, that just kind of put me off of them right away. But then I started looking into them, and maybe I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2 too much recently, but they got a lot more appealing to me. And I mean, just look at that. Who can say that's not just a beautiful and also just interesting design with this one, how, the upper cylinder is exposed. Can't even remember where I was going with that, guys. Sorry. But this is the most popular one. And this is your Pieta model 1851 Confederate Navy. Now this one is in .44 caliber, and I believe that is technically historically inaccurate. I don't believe the 1851 Navy was ever produced in .44. I believe it was only 36 caliber. But the larger .44 caliber, once again, is kind of the more popular load apparently for the black powder guns. And so Pieta went ahead and made these in .44 caliber. The most common setup you'll see of these is this particular one right here with the brass frame, and like I said, in .44 caliber. They also do come in a steel frame in the 36 caliber, and they call that the Yank model. And then real quick brief history on that. The story is the South during the Civil War didn't have enough materials to make all of the handguns, and so they were melting like church bells and such for the brass to make the frames of their guns. It wasn't as good as steel, but it was kind of, good enough. And I mean, it looks absolutely beautiful. And it is shiny now. I'm sure once you, have it out in the air and shoot it some, it'll start to get that dull kind of brass look, which to me, I think would just make this gun that much prettier, add a little bit of patina to it. But of course, if you wanted to keep that shine, you can just, put brass polish on it and it'll bring that shine back. I don't know if this is actually brass or if it's just kind of like a brass-like alloy. Now, the disadvantage to brass, it is a little bit weaker than steel, and even this you know, even if it's not brass, the material they use, because this one with the brass frame came with this little notice, you know, kind of saying use a weaker load in it, because of that brass frame. You don't want to wear it out or anything like that. And I mean, for what, you know, you're going to be using this for, that really doesn't bother me at all, having to use a weaker load, because I mean, I'm just going to be using this out plinking around. I'm not taking this out on a battlefield. I'm not going to be using this for home defense or anything like that. So to me, that, you know, doesn't bother me. Once again, you know, if you start looking into this, a lot of black powder people are just really anti-brass frame. From what I've looked into it, as long as, you know, you're not loading a max loads or anything, it seems like it will be fine. But it will not have as long as a lifespan. Like if you're going out shooting this thing every weekend, you know, you might want to go ahead and upgrade to the steel frame. But brass frames are cheaper, and I think they're pretty darn cool looking. So I will point out real quick, this one has a bead front sight. And the cool thing is the rear sight is actually on the hammer. So when you pull the hammer back, it kind of presents itself. You do not want to dry fire black powder pistols, because you can damage that nipple. The kind of loading process, I think I skipped the fact that you have to put a little percussion cap on that nipple there. So it's a little bit of a process to load and shoot these. It's going to be a little bit dirty, but, you know, pretty cool at the same time. So like I said, this is the most popular one that runs $200. You know, that's pretty fairly priced. The Navy model, which is in the 36 caliber, and that has a steel frame, so that one's going to be more historically accurate as far as caliber goes. Those run $250. Now the other one I got here is this big boy. Now this did originally come in 44 caliber, I believe. I might be wrong in this, guys. I'm not the biggest expert on this old of a firearm. But this is the Pieta model 1858 New Army 44 caliber. And at Cabela's, this was running $270. And I'm sure that these are a lot, you know, you could probably get some really good deals like Black Friday sales and stuff like that. But the prices that I'm saying here appear to be just kind of their standard everyday price. Now, as you can see, this one has more of a traditional revolver look to it. It has the strap over the top of the cylinder. The side is a blade front. And then it's just your, you know, built-in kind of groove on that top portion there for the rear sight. Now, one thing I will say about this particular model, one of the things you can do to these guns, well, some of them, you cannot do it to this. You can convert this to shoot brass-cased ammo. Now, one way to do that, or, you know, one approach would be to load black powder in a brass case. That's just going to make it a lot more convenient, a lot less messy. You're going to be able to do, you know, reloads a lot quicker that way. And another way, and this is kind of debatable in the black powder world, is using light cowboy loads. Now, the guy I mentioned before, Duelist 1954, you know, he says it's okay to use those light cowboy loads. A lot of other people, you know, say do not do that whatsoever. Never fire, you know, smokeless powder out of these. But you can get cylinder conversions, and it basically just has like a little firing pin behind each cylinder that hammer's hitting, and you can shoot brass cased ammo. So that's kind of a cool thing too. That's something I definitely would look into eventually getting. It'll just, you know, make it a lot more convenient to use at the range. And these can be pretty messy reloading. If you watch any videos of someone shooting, you know, several rounds through these, the gun itself inherently is very dirty when you're firing it, but just, you know, having to use that grease to seal up everything and loading the powder in by hand, they're not clean guns to shoot by any means. So that's a little more convenient if you want to do that brass case conversion, if that's something you're interested in. Before you buy a revolver, look into it, make sure that the model of revolver you're looking at is compatible with a conversion like that. Another thing I've seen out there is companies will offer these. They'll sell them as, you know, straight out of the box converted already. So you have that option as well. And of course, those are a little bit nicer than just doing the cylinder conversion. That you'll get the little extractor rod to pop the rounds out and stuff like that. So these guns, they all kind of, you know, they come with the same manual. You get this. little instruction manual from Cabela's. These are made by Pieta out of Italy. And then they all come with this manual. It's just kind of a generic manual for all of the revolvers. They come in a little styrofoam packed, generic cardboard box, nothing special there. So some of the interesting things about these, though, is since these are black powder, these are not considered actual firearms, at least in most states and counties. Where I live, these aren't considered firearms, so it's kind of interesting. I ordered these from Cabela's online, had them delivered to my house, signed for them, and that was it. I didn't have to have it shipped to an FFL or anything like that. My understanding is, once again, in most places, look into your local laws before you jump into this, of course, but most places you just simply need to be over the age of 18 to buy one of these. And like I said, you can have it shipped straight to your house, so you don't have to worry about an additional cost of an FFL or anything like that. Now, like I said, these aren't, or I don't know if I have said yet, these are not 100% historical recreations of the pistols. Like this one, obviously, I said is in 44 caliber instead of 36. They didn't do that in the 44 caliber back then. But what Pieta did is other things like the grip. They kind of extended it out. The original grips on this model, they didn't look like they were the most comfortable, and I believe they modified this grip a little bit as well. Just a really subtle change to simply make it more comfortable to shoot, because they're not trying to pass these off as originals, Other things, I believe, like they made the loading area here a little bit larger, so it's easier for you, to put the lead ball in. I believe they've been whitened on both of these. So little things like that, and of course you're going to have your Italian proof marks. It's kind of interesting. These are really popular in Italy, and I believe I was in a group of a bunch of Italian military collectors, and one of them said that about 80% of these that are made in Italy are for export to the U.S. So the U.S. is definitely their main market on these. But Pieta makes these. I believe Uber Ready makes them. There were a bunch of American companies that made them. I think some of them have gone out of business or no longer make the black powdered firearms anymore. I believe there are still some around. But the Pieta and Uber Readys, from what I've seen, are definitely the most available that are out there pretty much everywhere. And as far as quality goes, I looked into it a whole bunch, and from what I can tell, they might not be the top quality reproduction black powder firearms, but they're not bad by any means. They're shootable. They're not just meant to put into a case. They are designed to be fired. So like I said, you only have to be 18. They can be delivered to your door in most states. And now I will say, I do know in some states, I forget what state it was, I was talking to someone, but you have to actually have it sent through an FFL. You have to do the background check and all that jazz. And he said it goes back to the fact that some of these can be converted to shoot brass cased ammo. Now, like I said, that's still a weaker load brass case, but I guess some states and counties don't like that. So in some areas you might have to do that. The other thing that's cool, at least once again in my area, since these are not considered firearms, I can buy this with the intention of giving it to someone else as a gift. Now I know a lot of people say, well, they would never know if you bought a firearm, and I don't know if anyone's actually gotten in trouble for that, other than like buying a gun for a known felon or something like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about giving a gift to someone that has firearms already. So that's kind of nice and handy, especially because what I have done here, none of these are going to be mine. Old BrowncoatNerd's getting hitched here pretty soon. So I've got one for each of my 3 groomsmen and one for the father of the bride. Eventually I will get one for myself too, just so I have the black powder as well. Funds got a little tight. I just wanted to hurry up and get these ones so that I could get them to them before the wedding. So obviously by the time this goes live, BrowncoatNerd will be hitched. So yeah, just real quick introduction to black powdered firearms. I think they're really cool. Even though they're not 100% historically accurate, they definitely have a lot of history. I mean, it just tells the story of the evolution of the gun, especially this guy, how it doesn't have a, strap over the top of the cylinder, how the rear sight's built into the hammer. I think all that's, you know, really cool. And the price is right on these. They're not very expensive, and you know, they have, you know, muzzleloader black powders, and you know, they've got a pretty cool, I forget the model name, and I'm sure you guys have seen them, but the little revolver rifle looking guy that's black powder. A bunch of really cool stuff. And the prices are very well priced on them. And you can find these in shorter barrel lengths. They offer that. You can find them in stainless steel sometimes too. They come in a variety of different finishes. So you definitely have some options out there as far as, you know, what you want it to look like and everything. But that's pretty much all I've got for you on this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Maybe I perked your interest in black powder firearms, and now you have an excuse to go get another one and add it to your collection. All right, thanks for watching, and stay shiny.